Welcome to The Silent Verdict.
With Clara Monroe and Elias Gray.
Meanwhile, the duck is snapped by a speed camera flying over the speed limit in central Switzerland. The speed camera clocked the bird travelling 32 kilometres over the limit, apparently, and we'll have more on that later. Fast bird.
Okay, picture this. A radar gun clocks a speeder doing nearly double the limit.
Right. Standard stuff.
Except the culprit. Well, let's just say you should prepare for some foul play.
Ah, yes. This case out of central Switzerland, it's really something. A speed camera captured a mallard duck.
A duck.
Flying at, get this, 52 kilometers per hour in a 30 zone.
Okay, that's already pretty wild. A speeding duck. But wait, because it gets even stranger, doesn't it?
It really does. The truly bizarre part is that this wasn't apparently a one-off event at this specific location. No. There was a strikingly similar incident. Same spot, same speed, 52 kilometers per hour.
You're kidding. When?
And seemingly another mallard duck involved. It happened on the exact same day, 7 years earlier.
7 years. To the day. Okay, wow. What are the chances of that?
Astronomical, you'd think.
So that's what we need to get into here, this whole feathered mystery. We need to look at the evidence, think about the, implications, I guess, and just explore this completely unexpected intersection of, traffic cameras and wildlife.
It's a fascinating collision, definitely. And it brings up some, let's say, unusual legal questions almost immediately.
Like what? Can you even give a duck a speeding ticket?
Exactly. How do traffic laws apply to, well, non-humans? It's not something the rulebook generally covers.
I'd imagine not. And what about the technology? We rely on these speed cameras, but are they foolproof for everything? Especially something small and airborne.
That's a really important point. Their reliability in, let's call it, non-standard situations. Could there be limitations we just haven't considered? Because usually it's cars.
Right. And then there's this idea of a repeat offender. Can we actually apply that term to an animal? Seriously. Especially with mallards, which, let's be honest, look pretty similar to each other.
Very similar. So the concept of identifying a specific individual becomes incredibly difficult, if not impossible.
Yeah, how could you prove it? Beyond any reasonable doubt, I mean. It wasn't the same duck. Or that it was. The whole burden of proof thing is very murky. Or maybe feathery.
Hey, right. So, okay, let's break down the evidence. First, just for the initial speeding incident itself, what did they actually capture?
Well, the core fact is the radar reading. 52 kilometers per hour in a 30 zone. That's quite a bit over.
Undeniably fast for that zone.
And it wasn't just a number on a screen. They got a photo, right?
Yes, absolutely. The speed camera took a picture, and it clearly shows a mallard duck in flight. It's not ambiguous. You can see the bird quite plainly.
Okay, so radar reading photographic evidence. And this wasn't kept quiet, was it?
Not at all. The local municipality actually posted about it on their Facebook page.
Did they really?
Yeah. They acknowledge it happened, maybe with a bit of a chuckle, you could say, but they put it out there. That suggests they believed the reading was genuine.
That public posting is interesting. It takes it beyond just an internal glitch report or something.
Definitely. And the Swiss authorities have backed up the tech. They emphasize that these radar systems are, properly calibrated. They're tested every year by the Federal Institute of Metrology.
So the official body for measurements.
Precisely. And the photos are digitally sealed, apparently, to ensure they haven't been tampered with. So the bottom line seems to be, the system accurately detected a fast-moving object, and that object was photographed as a duck.
Okay, so point one.
Yeah.
Speeding duck confirmed. But that's not the whole story.
Not even close.
Because then we have this repeat offender angle, the coincidence.
This is the part that just sounds almost unbelievable. A similar-looking duck.
Yes.
Same exact speed, 52 kilometers per hour.
Same location.
Same location, and on the exact same calendar date, just 7 years earlier.
It's almost like something out of a movie. It's just too neat.
It really strains credulity, doesn't it? And this is what led the officials, perhaps jokingly, perhaps not entirely, to call the duck a notorious racer and repeat offender.
Quite the label for a bird. But okay, let's pump the brakes a bit. We need to look at the counter-arguments or, the skeptical side.
Absolutely. And the biggest hurdle, as we touched on, is identification. How on earth do you definitively say it's the same mallard duck from a photo taken 7 years apart?
You probably can't, right? I mean, unless it had, I don't know, a tiny numbered leg band visible in both photos, which seems unlikely. They just look so alike.
Exactly. Distinguishing individuals reliably without specific markings is incredibly difficult for most wild animals, especially from a distance or a quick photo.
So that casts serious doubt on the repeat offender tag, even if the events happened.
It makes it highly speculative, yes. Another thing to consider is, well, duck behavior and habitat.
Ah, right. They're waterfowl. They like water.
Precisely. They're usually near rivers, lakes, ponds. So could there be a simple explanation involving proximity to water?
What do you mean? Like maybe there's a river or something nearby?
Potentially. And perhaps the duck was flying low, maybe taking off or coming in for a landing near this water source?
And that low flight path just happened to take it right through the speed camera's beam, which is set up to catch cars close to the ground.
That's a plausible scenario, isn't it? It wouldn't necessarily be speeding along the road in the human sense, just flying low where the camera was aimed.
That sounds a lot less like a law-breaking duck and more like, well, a duck being a duck near a road.
It offers a more mundane, though still unusual, explanation. And remember, even the local folks initially wondered if it was some kind of joke.
Like an April Fool's thing, or maybe someone faked the picture.
Yeah, those possibilities were apparently considered. But the police, according to the reports, insisted that the detection and the photo were real.
So even with the humor around it, the basic data point duck speed photo is considered legit by the authorities involved.
That seems to be the case. Which brings us to some really interesting turning points in how this whole thing unfolded.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, just the initial event itself. A speed camera actually clocking and photographing a duck. That's incredibly rare, right? A real outlier.
Totally unexpected. You install those things for cars and trucks, not wildlife.
Exactly. But then, the discovery of that nearly identical incident from 7 years prior, that's the real kicker.
Yeah, that discovery must have just blown their minds. It takes it from weird glitch to what is going on here?
Yeah.
Coincidence. Or is it the same Speedy Bird?
It absolutely shifts the narrative. And then, as we said, the municipality deciding to go public with it on Facebook.
That's another key moment. It stopped being just an internal record and became this public curiosity.
It really cemented its status as a genuine, albeit bizarre, event in the public eye. They sort of owned the weirdness of it.
And then there's the biological angle we need to consider, the lifespan.
Right. Mallards typically live, what, 5 to 10 years in the wild, give or take?
So a 7-year gap between incidents?
It's actually biologically plausible that it could be the same individual duck. Highly improbable, maybe, statistically speaking, but not impossible from a lifespan perspective.
Huh. So maybe it is one very long-lived, consistently fast duck. The possibility isn't zero.
The possibility isn't zero. It just adds another layer of intrigue. And finally, thinking about the location, Bern has the R River running through it, right?
It does, yeah. Major river.
So the presence of a significant water body nearby provides that practical environmental context. It makes sense that ducks would be flying in that area, potentially at lower altitudes near the riverbanks.
Which brings us back to that idea of the low flight path triggering the camera. It all kind of fits together geographically.
It provides a logical reason for ducks to be present and potentially flying in the camera's detection zone.
Okay, so we've looked at the evidence, the repeat offender angle, the counter arguments, the key moments. Where do we land on this? What's the verdict on the speeding duck?
Well, I think the evidence is pretty clear that, yes, a duck was clocked speeding by the radar, and it was photographed. That part seems factual based on the reports.
Right. Incident 1 definitely happened. Yeah. Incident 2, 7 years earlier, also seems to have happened similarly.
Yes. But actually labeling it a repeat offender, meaning the same duck, that's where we have to say it's speculation.
Because of the identification problem.
Exactly. The difficulty in proving it was the identical bird across 7 years is just too high. It's a fun theory, a great headline, but not something you could, prove in duck court.
Right. So 2 very similar, very strange events, but we can't definitively link them to one single feathered culprit.
Pretty much. What the whole thing does do, though, is serve as this wonderful, slightly absurd example of how our technology interacts with the natural world in ways we didn't expect.
Yeah, you set up a system for cars, and suddenly you're catching wildlife breaking speed limits. It's amusing, but it also makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. It highlights the unexpected things that can happen at that interface. And it also touches on those bigger questions about rules and context.
How we apply rules designed for human roads and vehicles to something totally different, like a bird just flying by.
Precisely. It sort of challenges us to think about the boundaries of our regulations and maybe just appreciate the sheer unpredictability of nature sometimes.
So there you have it, a speeding duck. Apparently it's a real thing. And it kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What other bizarre, unnoticed moments are being captured by all those cameras watching our roads?
That's a good question. What else is out there?
And maybe, more broadly, what happens when our neat, orderly human systems run smack into the wild, untamed chaos of the natural world? Seems that sometimes you just get a speeding duck.